Hey y'all, and welcome back. It's turning cool around here down in the south, so it's time to do some baking. In today's recipe, we're going to make a small loaf pan pound cake. So come on and join us in the kitchen as we share this recipe making a pound cake with homemade chocolate icing. Hey y'all, and welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we are making a homemade pound cake. So come on, and we're going to get started on making this pound cake. Y'all, now let's go over the ingredients you're going to need for this pound cake. You're going to need sugar, 2 eggs, baking powder, vanilla flavoring, a pinch of salt, Crisco, all-purpose flour, some milk, and 2 eggs. And then for the icing, we'll go over that when we get to the icing part of the cake. But this is just for the pound cake itself. Okay, we're going to start by adding our 1½ cup of all-purpose flour. And this is 1/2 cup measure that I've got right here in my flour. So there's 1/2, 1 1/2. And now we're going to add the rest of the dry ingredients to the flour. We're adding 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Just a dash of salt. And now we're just going to mix the dry ingredients together. This is everything that's dry except the sugar. And we're going to blend the sugar in with the Crisco. Okay, we're going to set this to the side. Okay, we're going to start to our mixer. We're going to start by adding our sugar first. And we're going to add 1½ cups. And now just 1/2 cup. Okay, now we're going to add 3/4 cup of our Crisco. Now I've got to measure out my Crisco. We're going to use this 1 cup measuring cup, and I'm not going to fill it all the way to get my 3/4. If it was a perfect world, I'd have all this measured out, but I don't cook that way. Okay, that's close enough to 3/4, and now we're going to add that to the sugar. When you get it all in there. Okay, now we're going to start mixing that in. We're just going to blend the Crisco in with the sugar. And now we're just going to scrape down the side of the mixer and get all the sugar and Crisco off the side. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my 1/2 cup of milk, my 2 eggs, and these are room temperature eggs. When you're baking a cake, it's always good to let your eggs set out and get room temperature. And we're going to give that a little mix. And it'll take 3 or 4 minutes just to get it combined all well together. And now I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. Okay, now we're going to start adding our flour mixture to it, a little bit at a time. And this is the last little bit we're going to add. We're going to cut it up a little bit and let it start blending real good. And then we're going to scrape the sides of the mixer. Then blend one more time, and we're going to turn it up and let it get good and combine all together. So you can't do it like that when you first start adding your flour, or you'll have a mess. Okay, that's what our mixture looks like. Now let's scrape it off the side and get it in our pan. Creamy cake batter. Okay, to our glass dish, we're going to add us some good old-fashioned Crisco. And we're just going to grease this pan up real good. You don't want to use oil, like an olive oil, because that'll give your cake an olive taste. Just old-fashioned Crisco is the best I like to use for my cakes. Okay, now that we've got it greased up, we're going to put a little bit of flour in it. Now we're just going to take about a handful of all-purpose flour, and we're going to put it in that cake pan, and we're just going to toss it around in there and coat all that Crisco till we get it all evenly coated. I was going to turn the camera off to do this part, but if you're going to do a cake, you need to know sometimes you have to just tap it on the counter to get it to coat your pan evenly. It just makes that flour get all over that Crisco real good, just tapping it. Okay, now we're going to shake the little bit of extra out. Now that we've got our pan coated, our mess cleaned up, we're going to start putting our cake in our pan. just give it a little tap. Okay, that's what our pound cake's turning out to look like. So now we're going to put it in the oven on the middle rack, and we're going to bake it on 350 for 1 hour. There's our pound cake, y'all. Let's take it out and give it the toothpick test. Okay, we're going to take this toothpick and insert it inside the pound cake and see if it comes out clean. We'll go right to the center. Looks pretty clean to me. I think our pound cake is done. So now let's make the homemade icing. Okay, we're going to take our cake and just set it to the side and let it start cooling down, and we'll try to take it out as soon as we get our icing done. Now let's go over the ingredients for the icing. We're going to use a 1/3 cup of white sugar, a teaspoon of butter flavoring, a cup of milk, a tablespoon of real butter, some good old-fashioned Hershey's cocoa, and then you're going to need a tablespoon of all-purpose flour, and then just a dash of salt. So now let's turn around here, and we're going to make us some chocolate homemade icing for our pound cake. Turn your pot on medium-low. One cup of whole milk. Then to your milk, you're going to add 1/3 cup of white sugar, a teaspoon of butter flavoring, then you're going to need 1/3 cup of Hershey's cocoa. Chocolate. One tablespoon of all-purpose flour. And now we're just going to give that a good mix, and we're going to cook it until everything is dissolved. You want to cook it slow. You don't want your milk to scorch. So just keep it on a medium heat. And now that everything is starting to dissolve, we're going to add just a sprinkle of salt. Now this is the kind of icing that you just drizzle over your pound cake. Okay, when you get it to this stage right here, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of real butter. And let that melt down. Okay, now that we've got our icing the way we want it, we've got to let it cool before we put it on our cake. That's the texture you're looking for. And once it cools, it'll even get a little bit thicker. Now let's see if our cake comes out of the pan without sticking. Oh, everybody say a prayer. Please come out. Oh, look at there, how pretty that is. Came out good. It's got a pretty crust. And now we're going to flip it over because I want the other side to be facing up. And the cake is cooled. It's still hot, but it's not real hot. But we are going to give it about 10 more minutes before we put our icing on it. Okay, this is the icing texture after it's cooled just a little. And now we're going to go ahead and get it put on our cake. And we're not going to like coat the whole cake. We're just going to drizzle it over the top. And I'm going to try not to make a total mess. Make sure y'all can see. And now we're just going to take and let it drizzle just over the top and down the sides. I got me a smaller spoon so I can work with it better. We're just going to be able to pour it off of this one easier. And then I'm going to let it drizzle off the side of this, on this side. I'm hoping it'll just drizzle down it. There it goes. Now we just got to clean our cake pan up, and that's what it turned out like, y'all. It's starting to drizzle on the sides for me the way I want it to. I'll put a little bit more right there. But other than that, that's our small pound cake. Okay, y'all, there's our pound cake with homemade chocolate icing. If you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.